how hard to counteract all of these things in Bulgaria, because it's interesting how the perception of the audience changes through all this period of 2 years of war. We understand that on one part of the scale we have Russian propaganda, we have a huge amount of Russian businesses and real estate in Bulgaria. Bought during many years. It's not the nowadays
It's
situation.
been accumulated,
So
that's right.
I've been in 90s in Nesebri, in Slinchev Breg, and I saw a lot of bought real estate by Russians then. So I understand that obviously the situation changed through all these years in the favor of Russian business, right? Correct me if I'm not right. That on one part of the scale is propaganda and all the Russian businesses that Bulgarians see each day in their ordinary life. And on the other part of the scale is communication and trust towards the governments, the politicians, and communication and open talks with their audience, explaining the real situation, not only in Ukraine, but all the risks and all the security problems that this aggression in Ukraine can bring. Okay, let's say, to understand for the audience, to economical situation in your country. I'm not talking just defense, and economical. What's winning?
Of course, there are many layers to this, and in a situation where there's a war actually very close to us. Now, let's begin with the properties of the Russians on the Black Sea coast, for example, or anywhere else. We look at Bulgaria and we say, well, how did we allow this? So many Russians to have property in Bulgaria, and now we have a problem. Well, we have to mention that here in the last couple of years, a lot of those Russian properties were sold. A lot of the owners, actually, because they can't travel right now to visit their properties, they prefer to sell what they bought at the time. But if we take a look at the other European countries, half of the London city was basically owned by Russian oligarchs or likes. Unfortunately, Germany was swarmed with Russian money and people who were buying.
There's one nuance. It's a Slavic country.
No, I know.
And British and Germans, they have a little
That's
bit
true.
different historical context.
That's true.
That's why.
But if there's something that Russia exported in the last 20 years, or at least since Putin is in power, that's the export of corruption. That was the biggest issue that we realized at a certain point that we have, all of us, the whole European Union, even the United States, I would say, to a great extent, certain businesses, they're related with the Russian intelligence services, and they're basically looking at undermining, doing business in, let's say, through the back door or under the table, and at the same time trying to undermine the trust in the democratic institutions in the country. So it's multi-layer. It's on the one hand the export of corruption, creating shady ties with let's say political and economic actors in each and every country. On the other side is the propaganda. The third side, of course, it's the military dimension or the security dimension, which Russia until it waged its full-scale war in Ukraine, everyone was scared from. And Ukraine basically demonstrated that it's a giant on cheese legs. There's nothing to fear. There's no Russian might. There's nothing there. And we should have been way more decisive in the previous years. Unfortunately, it's Ukraine right now which suffers. The Ukrainian men, women, and children are dying in this conflict, which is a full responsibility of Putin and his regime. And I believe the West needs to be again way more decisive here and give Ukraine everything possible in order for Ukraine to be capable of pushing out the Russian troops as soon as possible from its territory and to win. Unfortunately, to my dissatisfaction, even defining the end goal of the war for some of our friends, partners and allies is difficult. We say we want Ukraine to win, but we're kind of not writing it down in official documents. And we write as soon as needed, or as soon as we have to. We are going to support Ukraine, which is clear. That the goal is the win of Ukraine, but it's not explicitly said. So this is something that we're kind of struggling with right now, and but of course when it comes to a conversation and consensus between free countries, it's difficult sometimes to achieve that, because there's public opinion. A lot of politicians are struggling. They want to do the maximum, but then there's a backlash home, and they're trying somehow to balance. So sometimes it's not so easy to even for good willing politicians understanding what needs to be done to make the necessary step. And unfortunately, we do have in communist times, you remember the term useful idiots. That term was used for people in the West who believed in communist propaganda, and that communism is something good and it's gonna prevail and win, and wanted this regime to be installed in their own countries. Now we do continue to have useful idiots in the free world, so to say, but who believe in some of the things that Putin's regime projects.